God, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable to you, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. In my tenure here at First Parish, I've had the good fortune of being able to accompany groups on a number of mission trips. We've been to Down East Maine, we've been to Appalachia, we've been to Central America. And when we go on these trips, we're typically working with some of the most economically disadvantaged people in our hemisphere. So this we're going to put up. I have to tell them what to do because, okay, here's the aside. Our bank changed, which meant everything that we had a subscription for changed, so then nothing is working correctly, including our slideshow. But if you can try to get up the picture of inside of a little house, that one. Thanks, perfect. See, I told you we could do it. So here's an example, right? This is not unlike, right, Pam? Does this look like a lot of what we see when we go to Central America, Judy? And just seeing the lack of material resources can be gut-wrenching. Like, think about this. This is your permanent home, right? But then you get to know the people who live there. It's one thing to see the space. It's another thing to know the people. It ratchets everything up. What's interesting, we're going to leave that up there. What's interesting is when we return from our trips and ask participants to reflect on what they've experienced, it's not uncommon for them to comment that the people we meet seem to have so much joy in their spirits. Despite the challenges before them, the lack of resources, the injustice of their living situations, many of the people, not all of the people, but many of the people we encounter while traveling to do mission trips, to do service work, seem to have a particularly keen ability to name and experience and celebrate joy in a way that stands out. It stands out to the people who go and meet them. 2 weeks ago, I attended training focused on transitional ministry. And one of the key pieces of this training was to use appreciative inquiry, which we've begun talking about here. And if you're not familiar, a post on the Benedictine University website talks about appreciative inquiry in this way. To appreciate is to recognize the best in people or the world around us, and to inquire is to ask questions. So you're asking questions in order to be able to recognize the best that's around us. Appreciative inquiry focuses on strengths and the successes that already exist, not strengths and successes we wish existed, but the strengths and successes that already exist. I don't know about you, but it seems like every day I come up with lists of things that would make me happy. I would be happy if this happened. I would be happy if I just owned this. I would be happy if ... and the list goes on and on and on. And here's what I know from my own experience about that mindset. I'm always feeling unhappy when I'm focusing on what I need to be happy. When I'm in that mindset, I'm focusing on what I don't have instead of what I do have. And I don't think it's that I'm particularly gifted at that. I think our culture and our capitalist society help push us into that mindset on a regular basis. I'm always thinking about what else I could have, what else I could achieve, always thinking about what I'm striving for rather than appreciating what I already have. I don't know exactly why the people we meet when working in extremely impoverished areas seem joyful or happy, but I wonder if it has something to do with focusing on what they do have, appreciating what is already good in their lives rather than focusing on what is missing. One of the ideas they emphasized over and over again at the training I attended is that what we focus on not only matters, but it creates our reality. It shapes how we understand and experience the world. I wonder if that's how the author of Psalm 147 approached this writing. I wonder if I'm like 102% sure it was a he. I wish it could be a she. Just want to be clear. I wonder if he knew the power of focusing on God's gifts and blessings, on what already existed around them, even in the midst of struggle and strife. Perhaps Psalms like this one are early documentation of appreciative inquiry at work. This week's topic from our Beguiled by Beauty series is falling in love with the world. The author of the book, Wendy Farley, focuses on how our culture has constructed rules to categorize and distinguish that which is beautiful from that which is not beautiful. People have an awareness that those rules exist, yes. And that immediately made me think of the beauty industry, right? And like many people, I've had a personal experience with the beauty industry. When I was in high school, I asked my mother to let me make an appointment at the Clinique counter at the Macy's so I could learn how to do makeup. I don't know if they still do that, but they used to do that. And I sat in a stool at the counter, and there's a mirror, and they pull out all the samples, and they come around. This woman in a white coat, Clinique always had white coats. A woman in a white coat came around. She taught me how to put on foundation, how to put on a cream that evened out my complexion before I put on the foundation, which involved a lot of little dots all over my face, mascara and eyeshadow, and then how to add lipstick for the finishing touch. And when I went to college in Georgia, this turned out to be a hugely useful skill. Just to give you context, I had friends whose fathers, so they were from Georgia. Mercer's a very regional school, so most of the students are from the South. So I had friends in college whose fathers had never seen their mothers without makeup on, even in bed. Now, makeup in and of itself is not good or bad. It's simply a tool we have available to us. Makeup, for me, becomes an issue when it's required. When makeup is required for someone to be beautiful or even acceptable, that's an issue. Because at that point, we've moved from appreciating what is to focusing on fixing what we perceive as the deficits. When we start making rules about how things have to be beautiful, we move away from the beauty that God created and towards the beauty that we have manufactured. Beauty that will leave us unsatisfied because we're always striving to cover up our perceived flaws and achieve that perfect look or that perfect life. In this week's conversation between Marcia McPhee and Wendy Farley talks about the Japanese art of kintsugi. All right, there's a pottery piece that's whole. Let's see if we can get it up there. Perfect. Kintsugi. This is, according to Wikipedia, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery by mending the areas of breakage with lacquer dusted or mixed with powdered gold, silver, or platinum. As a philosophy, it treats breakage and repair as part of the history of an object. It's something that you expose and remember. It's not something you disguise. Okay, so now there's 3 more. Can you just show them? I think we start with broken pottery. Let's see if we can get the one of broken. So you start with all those pieces, perfect, then go to the next one. And then they like bind the pieces together and put the gold in, and then you get that. Perfect, you can leave it right there. Thank you. So the lesson that Farley emphasizes from Kintsugi is the revelation of rather than the hiding of the breaks. You could think of this as discovering beauty and gifts where you might think there are none, where you might think there's imperfection that needs to be fixed or covered up. The broken pieces of pottery are transformed into works of art, and the transformation is only possible because they broke. I think we should call this Kate's Confessions series. I have a lot of... Here's another. A few years ago when I was putting out our white porcelain nativity set in the sanctuary, I might have dropped the angel. And the tip of her wing broke off. And I was just going to put her up broken, but we repaired her. And when we put the nativity out, you likely won't notice that she's broken unless you get really, really close, because there's a little hairline crack, because it's been repaired. That's the end of my confession. I'm just going to leave it there. I wonder how our lives would be transformed if we embraced our brokenness. That which we often seek to hide because we think it's ugly or unbecoming, or our society or our culture has told us we should hide it. What would happen if instead of trying to hide our reality or make it up or mend it so it looks like there's no brokenness that exists, what if we focused on what is and found what we could appreciate in the brokenness? Maybe if we were able to do that, our spirits could be liberated. And that would allow us to experience the beauty that permeates our whole lives, our broken lives. The beauty that permeates not just the gifts that we already possess, but the gifts in what we think we need to dispossess. Amen.